Look at this KPI card. There is no hierarchy, everything has the same way. We have to read it like a table. It's a bit like a data dump. In this video, I want to turn them into something better. I want to make them easier to read by creating a proper hierarchy and adding trend indicators to guide the eyes. So let's get into it. If you are not familiar with the channel, my name is Zsolti and I'm from Hungary, Budapest, but I live in Germany, Berlin, and I share Power BI tips, tricks, tutorials here, so stay tuned. If you open the Power BI file, you can find the link in the description. Then here is the visual, the KPI we want to change. This is based on some mockup data, which I created in ChatGPT. It shows the number of views, subscribers, and posts based on specific months. It's all accumulated on the month level and there are no dimensions. First, I'm going to add the button slicer. I'm going to use this instead of a card visual because there are some issues with that. I'm going to show it later. And we are going to add the engagement level on the field. Let's make it larger. So this is going to give the structure to the cards. Then let's open the formatting panel, go to callout values, and we are going to add the values as the labels. I already have some measures, so open this and let's drag this engagement on the field, label field. Then the font segue UI is okay, and let's change it to 28 points. You can see that the formatting is kind of off. We want to format it differently because all the values have different scales. And we can't do it directly here in the visual because we put the values on the label. So there are no options for display units or decimal values. We have to do it with the measure, and I already created one. If you open this engagement label, it takes the engagement measure, and depending on the value, how large it is, it's going to format it differently. You can read it here, below 1000, it doesn't format it at all. It returns 0 when the value is 0. It returns the values with one decimal place in thousands. And then it goes on like that, where the largest values are in millions with a 1000 separator. So let's change the label field to this measure. And you can see that the formatting is now much better. Let's also change the colors. I copied here two hex codes, one for the primary info, which is a darker color, and a lighter shade for the secondary infos. Let's copy the color for the secondary info first and add it to the values. The values are in this case the labels above the numbers. I also want to change the font to segue UI and then go to the label. Segue UI is fine here, and let's change the color to the primary color. I'm going to copy the other hex code and paste it here. So why do we use the button slicer instead of the new card visual? Well, there is an issue with it. I already created one version here where I added the engagement label on the data and the engagement level on the categories. And the first thing is that we can't format it properly. So the labels, the posts, views, and subscribers are separate from the cards themselves. And I played around with it and the formatting is kind of clunky. Alternatively, we could put the labels here within the cards, replacing the labels with the measure. But if you do that, I already did this for the engagement label. I put this selected engagement level, which is simply the selected value of the engagement level, which is seemingly not filtered by the card visual. So it returns engagement label in all the cards, whereas it works properly in a table. So that's why the button slicer. Let's go back to our visual. We are going to format it now. Let's remove the title and also let's remove the background. Then scroll down to the bottom, to the buttons. And here we are going to change the shape to a rounded rectangle and make the corner radius 4 pixels. Then remove the border and we are going to add the shadow, where we are going to use the same color like the secondary info. And the position is going to be custom. The size is okay, the blur is okay, the angle is going to be 90% or 90 degrees to make it to cast the shadows vertically. And the distance is going to be 0 pixels to make the distance narrower between the cards. And we can also narrow the distance even more. Let's scroll on the top on the formatting panel and go to layout, then to gap, and change the uniform gaps to 0 pixels. We can also make the cards a bit narrower, so not that tall. And after that, we want to add the change, how the values changed versus last year. For that, I'm going to use another visual, a new card visual. And here we are going to add the engagement versus previous year percentage. Also open the filter panel and drag the engagement level on that because we have to filter it. We are going to create these new cards for every button or every card separately. I was considering here to use the engagement level on the categories, but the same thing happens. The categories don't filter the visual, and also the formatting with the reference labels is not very smooth. Now let's go to the formatting panel and navigate down to the callout values. Change the font to Segway UI. Change the size to 12 points. We skip the colors for now and go to show blanks as 0%. Then we are going to remove the labels and scroll down to the reference labels. Here we are going to add the last year value as also secondary information. We can put this engagement previous year label here. This is the same measure like with the engagement label, but here we use the previous year. Then select the label, engagement previous year label, selecting the measure, and we will change the title to last year, which I already did. There are two things here. First of all, for some reason, the reference label doesn't work properly because in this case, it should show the value as it is without any percentage or anything, but somehow it takes over, the reference label takes over the formatting of the value. If we add here, for example, engagement to the data, which has no formattings, and then I select the reference labels for the engagement, and here I'm going to add the engagement previous year label as well. And you see that the formatting is also different. But this is also not the correct formatting because again, under 1000, it should have no decimal values. I don't know why is this happening when I add here something, then the value changes. So it's a bug. I hope they are going to fix it. So how to overcome it? Well, I created another measure, and even without the bug, I wanted to create it. If you go to this engagement previous year label versus last year, I wanted to put the value in a more natural way, in more natural context. So it doesn't read like last year and the value, but versus value last year. It's a little bit easier to digest. So let's remove the engagement from the data, and here on the reference labels, I'm just going to add the new measure and replace the previous measure. Remove the title, and now you see that the formatting works properly. Then select all the series and remove the background and also remove the divider. Then go to spacing and remove the outer padding, put it to 0 pixels. So the two values are as close as possible to each other. Also going to make the card a little bit smaller. Then go to the values, change the font size to 10 points, and change the color to this secondary info. One thing I didn't mention, and you might be wondering, is this plus here in front of the number. If you open the engagement versus previous year percentage, this is a normal value, so there is no formatting. But I put a format string here in the top, where if the number is positive, it puts a plus in front of it. If it's negative, it's with the negative sign, and in case of 0, it just returns 0. Next, we want to color the value, the percentage difference. I already created a measure for that. If you open this engagement versus previous year percentage color, you can see here that if the number is larger than 0, it returns a green color. If it's smaller, then it returns a red. And if it's neutral, it returns a gray color. Let's put it. And here for the values, the callout values, we can add the conditional formatting. Select field value and select look for color and select this engagement versus previous year. Click OK. And this is green. Let's test it. If you click through here the month, you can see how the color changes to red. And in August, there is no change, so it is gray. After that, we are going to add the icons. I created them in Figma. I also put a Figma file, which you can download from the link in the description. And if you open it, you see already some colors here. These are the same colors which we put for the percentage values. This is going to be used for the icons. And there is also another shade, lighter shade, or a more transparent shade, which will be used as a background. In the top left corner, open the menu, go to plugins and open Iconify. If you don't have this plugin yet, you can go to manage plugins and look for it, Iconify, and just run it. In the pop-up, we are going to look for trend. And I already looked for an icon which I want to use, which is this icon of moon, trend up bold. You can just drag it on the canvas. This is going to be the positive, and for negative, you can drag this one. This is also from the icon of moon set. And for the neutral one, I go back to the icon sets, and here I'm going to look for icon of moon. Open the set and look for minus. This is going to be the icon for the neutral values. Here I'm also going to pick the bold. Whenever you pick icons from Iconify, it's a good way to find similar icons when you search for them in the same icon set. We are going to format them a little bit. First of all, I'm going to select them all and tidy it up a little bit. Also align them. And here on the formatting pane, show the fill and change the corner radius to 4 pixels. Then select the first icon, which is this upwards icon, and pick the color, this green color. And for the background, we are going to pick this transparent color. Then do the same for the negative and the neutral icons. When you are done, after that, I want to change a little bit the first two icons because they are too close to the border. So I'm just going to select them within the frames. Make sure that these two are selected and not the entire frame. Then go to the formatting panel again. Lock the aspect ratio in the layout. And then just turn the height to 8 pixels. Then select the first icon and align it in the middle. And do the same for the red icon, aligning it vertically and also horizontally. Then make sure to select the green icon again, but now with the frame, with the background. Then go to the menu, plugins, manage plugins, and look for export SVG and run this export SVG to URI plugin. This is a pretty cool tool. You can turn your selected elements into SVG codes. Here the output, the data is fine for us. We can use it in measures or tables. And here for the URI, the simple also works. Or alternative, you can pick tiny, which returns a smaller version of the code. I'm just going to stick to simple and then copy the code. And let's go back to Power BI. Here, I'm going to create a new table. So go to Home on the menu bar and click Enter Data. And we are going to have a column called Icon, which will have the values positive, negative, and neutral. We don't need the fourth row. And add the new column, which is going to be icon sort. I always like to put a sort column in case we want to sort the values other than alphabetically. 1, 2, 3. And then a third row, third column, which is going to be icon URL. And we can copy the code already for the positive. Then go back to Figma, select the red icon, copy its code, and copy it back to the table, and then do the same for the neutral icon. When you copy all the codes, we can rename the table icon trends, D icon trends. I like to use D in the namings for dimension tables and F for fact tables. Click on load. And when the new table appears here in the data, we are going to add the new measure, which is going to return the icons based on the same logic as we return the colors for the percentage values. So let's copy the engagement versus previous year color measure and create a new measure in the measure table. We are going to call it, let's call it trend icon. And here I'm going to add the variable trend direction. And instead of the hex codes, I'm just going to put positive. Then the red is negative in neutral. I'm going to add another variable, trend icon equals calculate, and return the selected value of the icon URL if, we filter the icon column to equal the trend direction. Then return the trend icon. Press enter. Now go back to the card visual and scroll down to the image. Somewhere there is an image option. Open the image, enable the image within the image, and the image type is going to be an image URL. And here we can search for icon and add the trend icon. If it doesn't show, select here in the series the engagement versus previous year percentage and enable the image. So it appeared already. Now you can select all in the series again, put the position to left to text, the vertical alignment to the bottom, and let's turn the size into 20 pixels. The measure works and it shows the icon, but normally you should set the measures and the columns with image URL in the data category. So let's go back to the trend icon, and for best practices, we are going to set the data category to image URL. And I'm going to do the same for the column icon URL as well. After that, we can remove from the card the background, then scroll down to the cards. And here we also remove the background and also the border. Move the visual then to on top of the card. We can make it a bit smaller to leave some space here for larger numbers. Also, I want to align it in a way that this versus last year bottom part is aligned with the bottom part of the number or the bottom line of the number. I'm just eyeballing it, something like this, and copying the card. I can fit it in the corner here again. After copying it, change in the filter pane or filter panel the engagement level to views. Copy it one more time and change the filter to subscribers. A good way to check whether the space is enough is by removing all the filters and see how does it scale with large numbers. I think it looks good, so the sizing is okay. I'm going to select something again, 2024. And there is one more thing left. Because we used a button slicer, it is interactive and we want to prohibit or we want to avoid that the user can interact with it. Let's add the shape and we are going to move it on top of the visuals like this and spanning across the entire width. Then go to the formatting pane and remove in the shape style the fill and the border. We can also group all the elements, open up the selection pane and select all the visuals we used, the button slicer, the free cards and the shape, and by pressing Ctrl G, you can group them together, okay. KPI cards. When you select the month, you see how the values change. So we are done with it. I wanted to mention one more thing. In some cases, this icon doesn't align very well with the numbers, and there are not many options to change the alignment here. So you have to play around with it in Figma. If you ever happen to have a case like this, you can just add another frame around the frame. By pressing Ctrl G, I added a new frame, and by pressing down Ctrl, you can resize this however you want. And then instead of the icon, you can copy this entire frame and then it will scale differently. Also, probably you could create this entire section with an SVG, which you could then put directly in the button slicer. I wanted to use no SVGs here, but that would be also an alternative. Let me know what you think about it. If you like the video, you can give it a like. You can also subscribe if you want to see videos on similar topics, and see you next time.